In 1985, my best friend Graham and I cycled from Lethbridge, Alberta to Pensacola, Florida. We were young, we were committed, we weren't very bright either. And we were learning very quickly that long bike trips don't care about your plans. One day, somewhere in Louisiana, we rode straight into Hurricane Juan. At first it didn't feel dramatic. The sky darkened, the wind picked up, the rain started to fall. And then it just didn't stop. We were soaked through within minutes, cold, shivering, the road stretching on longer than it ever had before. There was no good option. You either kept going or you stopped and got colder and more wet. Hour after hour, the storm wore us down. Our hands were numb, our legs were heavy. Everything we were wearing was wet, and at some point it stopped feeling like a bike ride and started feeling like survival. Not just physical survival, but the grinding kind that asks you to keep moving when comfort is no longer available. Eventually we found a small hotel. We dragged our bikes inside, barely able to feel our fingers. We were both freezing, exhausted, completely spent. And that's when something happened that I've never forgotten. Even though we were both mildly hypothermic, Graham looked at me and said, "You go first." The first warm shower. No hesitation, no negotiation, just a simple decision. At that time, it didn't feel heroic. There was no speech, no explanation. But years later, I realized how much that moment revealed. Because that wasn't about strength in the physical sense, it was about values. We often think strength shows up when things are going well, when we're rested, prepared, comfortable. But real strength often shows up under pressure, when resources are limited, when discomfort is unavoidable, when no one is watching. Strength in those moments looks like generosity, like perspective, like choosing others even when you don't have much left to give. Stress has a way of stripping things down. It removes the extra layers, the niceties, the image we like to present. And what's left is what matters most. That day, stress didn't change who Graham was. It revealed who he already was. In the work I do with individuals and organizations around stress, well-being, and resilience, I see this pattern clearly. Stress doesn't automatically make people better or worse. It exposes habits, values, default responses. Under pressure, some people turn inward. Some become rigid, and some quietly, with no fanfare, choose generosity. That choice isn't accidental, it's practice. We often tell ourselves that we'll show up differently when things get easier. But pressure is usually the moment that counts. Not because we get it perfect, but because it shows us who we are becoming. Strength under pressure isn't about toughness, it's about alignment. That hotel room, that storm, that simple offer of a warm shower, it's been decades and I still remember it clearly. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was a moment that showed care and unselfishness, traits that are universally respected by humans. Here's a question we're sitting with. When pressure shows up in your life, what does it tend to reveal about what matters most to you? If this landed for you, this is exactly the kind of thing I dig into in my course, Why Power. It's about understanding what drives you under pressure and building resilience that's rooted in your values, not just willpower. Check it out at rtjwellness.com. Links in the description. These are the kind of conversations I have every day with individuals, teams, and organizations around stress, resilience, and well-being. Here's what I'd love to know from you. When pressure shows up, what does it reveal about you? Drop that in the comments. I read every single one. If this story reminded you of someone, send it their way. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next conversation, and I'll see you in the next video.